Hello, this is Jeff Byers, your instructor for ANI 150 Introduction to 3D Modeling and Game Art. So now we are actually on Module 1, creating a sci-fi crate. Normally I would always have you guys use a reference, but since I've been teaching this so long, and I've done this a million times in different classes, I'm going to go ahead and just have you guys follow me. I'm going to give you some dimensions, and we're going to go right from there, and you can guys just follow along. And we're going to learn the interface as we go along. So you've watched all the videos, so all the introductory videos, you've read everything. Hopefully you have. Otherwise you might get a little lost. But I'll give you a real quick recap. Up here is the main menu bar. We want to make sure our menu settings are set to modeling. We've also got our shelf editor here allowed, and you would want to make sure that you have polymodeling on. These are our primitives that we can create. I usually go into the create polygon primitives. You're going to see me go in there a lot. Also, we have the toolbar. We have the manipulator tool. We actually have the view panels bar here. If you ever get lost in here, you can click on the for view, and you can click on the perspective view. Perspective view is great for modeling. It's not great for trying to place things in your 3D scene. You'll have to go into your top and front and side views for that. Perspective is great, and you'll see me modeling with it a lot. But when you're just playing around, getting things stacked on top of each other, it's almost impossible, even for me, to go in here and start stacking stuff. So if I create a cube, and notice your cube will be different, but you start stacking stuff on, I have to use the top, front, and side views to get them aligned properly. So don't forget that they're there, because you'll see me using them a lot too as well. In perspective mode, you're going to want to make sure that your models are always facing the Z. So if you look down in the corner here, you can see it's showing you which way the front is towards you, which is the Z. Up is Y axis, and X is the side to the side axes. So you got X, up and down is Y, and then Z is forward and back. And we have a timeline here. We'll talk about that later when we do a turntable animation, and we've got our layers editor and our channel box or channel editor here. So we'll learn more about the interface. It's really not too bad. In each perspective view, we have all of these. This is our menu bar for menu editor for the actual the viewport. And then we've got all our viewport icons here that you guys can use, and we'll go through those two as well as we get farther along. But let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to create a NURBS primitive, and we're going to go into cube and into the option box. And I've got this set up as width as 8, height as 4, depth as 4, width divisions at 20, 10, and 10. And everything else is defaulted. So when you click on create, it creates this cube. Okay, in the channel box, in the channel editor, we can go in here and turn the translate, and we're going to go up 2. That should place it right on the ground plane, is where we want it. Most of your objects that you ever create, you're going to want to create on the ground plane. Okay, because if you transfer this over to another modeling package, then it will not, because most of the time people model inside of the 0, 0, which is the point in the center. We want to be above that, just touching it. That way our object is always on top of the ground plane. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to get rid of some edges. So let's go ahead and right click over the object. That's right mouse button, click over the object, and go to edge mode. Okay, so I don't want to get rid of the edges here, but I want to get rid of some of the edges on this side and this side and this side. And do the same thing over here. So I'm going to do every corner here, like that. Okay. So that's kind of what we've got so far. Okay. Right. So again, the way I would watch these videos is you watch me do one little thing, and then I want you to pause it, and then I want you to do that one little thing, and then when you get it done, if you don't get it done, you get lost, and rewind the video or just move it back, move that little tab back, and watch it again. And do that until you get it just right. Okay? So that's how you watch these videos and get the most out of these videos. Watch it, pause it, watch it, pause it, watch it, do it, pause it, and then continue on. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these edges. So I'm going to hold down the Control key and then hit the Delete key at the same time. Hold down the Control, hit the Delete. And that will get rid of all those edges. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bevel the edges. So I'm going to show you a new beveling tool, or a new tool called the Bevel tool. And I'm going to double click on all of the outside edges. Just double clicking on those. I want all the edges to go around this cube. Make sure you don't select anything else. Alright, so now that we've got that done, the Bevel tool can be found in Edit Mesh, Bevel. You can also, I want you to learn to use your marking menu. What is that? Okay, so the marking menu is when you hold the space bar down and hold it. This is the marking menu. Okay, this is kind of cool. I like using this all the time. In fact, you're going to rarely ever see me go up here to the main menu bar, because what's nice is that I'm not wasting any time going from here to here. I know that sounds kind of strange, but if you do hours and hours of modeling, holding on the space bar is much faster and more efficient than moving your mouse up and trying to find something. Well, anyway, if I hold down the space bar, I can go to Hotbox Controls, and I can click on that, hold down my left mouse button, and go to Show Modeling and Modeling Only. So when I hold down the space bar, I can see I've got Mesh, Mesh, Edit Mesh, Mesh Tools, and Mesh Display. Okay. So what I want you to do is just kind of memorize where things are at. Okay. Now I'm going to even show you a faster way to getting these to these things. So that's your marking menu. These are little marking menus. So if I want to bevel this object, I would go in here, and I believe I can hold down the Shift key and the right mouse button, and see where there's Bevel Edge. See how fast that was. Okay. So these are also marking menus, but they're component. Now, when you're a component is when you're in the blue mode, where the object's blue, and you right-click over it. I'm not going to do that right now because that would get me out of this. But you can choose vertex, edge, and face. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, my right mouse button, go right to Bevel Edge, and go into the option box. And I'm going to go to Edit, Reset Menu, and it should be set up exactly the way I want it. Normally, if I want to have nice rounded edges, I would have these segments to 4. Okay, but I want it very, science sci-fi feeling, so I'm going to do 0.5. So I'm going to click on Bevel. There we go. So now we've got that. And you can see that you can make these changes in here by clicking on the word and moving it back and forth. You can see that it gives me a rounded edge if I want to, which is very powerful. Or I can just do what I wanted to do in the first place and just have one segment. Okay? Alright, so click off there. Alright, let's go into edge mode. So right click over the object and go to selection mode. And you notice that Bevel tool is just kind of following us around. It's basically telling us, well, you've got history, and unless you delete history, I'm going to stay here and pester you until you get rid of me. So what is history? It's everything I've done so far. You can see right here that I've used the Bevel tool, okay, poly delete, and polycube. So to get rid of this history, which can add up over time and cause a lot of problems, is I can click on this icon right here called Delete by Type History. Okay, you can do the same thing by going to Edit, Delete by Type History. Okay, great. Alright, so you can see that the pesky little beveled menu is gone now. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you another tool. That's the beveling tool. I'm going to show you the Insert Edge Loop tool. I'm going to hold down while you're in object mode, which is the green, which means if you're still in this mode, you need to click on this, or you need to right click over this and go to select. Okay, either one or the other will work just fine. Alright, so hold down the shift key, right mouse button, and go to Insert Edge Loop tool. Okay, and with this we're going to create an insert edge loop right here. That means I'm clicking on that edge. Now if you click somewhere here, it won't do anything. If you click on here, it will give you an edge. You have to click on an edge. Now it doesn't matter if you click on this, okay, or this edge. So if you click on the edge up and down, it'll give you a horizontal cut. If you click on an edge vertically, it will do a vertical cut. Or excuse me, if you click on a horizontal edge, it will give you a vertical cut. Alright, so just remember that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do something like that, do an insert edge loop right here. If you make a mistake, no worries. You can either do Control Z, okay, and if you can't do that, then what you can do is hit the Q key, click off somewhere, double click on that edge again, and what you're going to do now is hold the shift key and the right mouse button, and you're going to go down to Slide Edge tool. And if you hold your middle mouse button over top of it, and you move your middle mouse button, or you move your mouse back and forth, you can move that up and down. Okay, so that's great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit the Q key, click anywhere off, anywhere in the gray area outside of that object. And now what we're going to do is right click over and go to face mode. Again, you can pause the video at any time if I'm going too fast. Hold the shift key down and click on one, double click on the other, and we're going to do an extrude. So I'm going to do Control E and extrude this in. So you notice that I've got the squares. The squares will scale. We don't want to use the scale tool. We want to use the move tool. So if I click on the blue arrow and move it in, you can see that it moves that in nicely. So I'm going to do it about the thickness of a piece of metal. Okay, that looks pretty good. So there's your first extrude. Awesome job. So we're going to do some more extrudes around the box. So let's go ahead and select the center of the box. And I'm going to hit the Q key. Okay. I'm going to select this face and double click on this face. And I'm going to click on this face and double click on this face. And I'm going to click on this face, double click on this face. And I'm going to click on this face and double click on this face. And you can see that it gives us 3 bands all the way around. That's great. So far so good. Underneath here, you're going to have to zoom around. You're going to hold the Control key and click off of these. We don't want to extrude these faces. I'm going to zoom around the bottom here and hold the Control key, and that will deselect. So Control is deselecting polygons. Adding is when you click on the Shift key. If you want to add to a pre-existing selection, you can hold the Control and the Shift at the same time. Alright, so now that we've got that done, we've got to do the other side too as well. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hold the Control key and just kind of zoom around here and get rid of these guys right here. And you have to do these one at a time, unfortunately. If you double click on it, it'll deselect the whole entire edge loop, which causes problems. So let's just go ahead and do that. There we go. Awesome. Come on. There we go. Right, so those are done. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go hit the Control key and the E key, and we are going to this time pull out. Pull the arrow, the blue arrow, out. Okay, something like that. Fantastic. Alright, great. So let's go ahead and deselect that. And let's go into selection mode. You can see that that's what we have so far. That looks pretty good. So in the next video, we're going to go ahead and continue working on the Sci-Fi box in part 2.